Hi, it's Nancy welcoming you to Gardens Grove. Today is August the 17th, and we do still have some pretty bougainvillea blooms in the garden, as well as some pretty hibiscus bloom. And I waited till a little bit later in the afternoon or evening even. It's about, I think it's like 6:30 or right at 6:30. And so I don't have to water everything today, but I'm going to try to water most or all of the front, and then of course under the willow tree. So I do need to get busy, but I wanted to show you a few of these things because, as you know probably, that the hibiscus blooms do not last more than a day. Tomorrow that beautiful red bloom I just showed you a little bit ago will be gone. I think it's actually already folded up just a little bit more than I wanted to. I planned on getting out here earlier, but I didn't make it. So to get this for you, I saw it and went inside, and I'm just now coming back outside. So that I just definitely didn't want you to miss out on that pretty bloom. And I took a break from watering yesterday, just long enough to trim this down, and a little bit in the back that I trimmed down, and it looks so much better. This actually doesn't look so great yet, but I know I have it trimmed, and that's a good feeling because I believe that it will come back out, and by the time the weather is nice again, where we can actually enjoy being out here maybe, it should be pretty blue blossoms all over this napata or catnip. And since I watered the grass, it does have a little bit of green in it now, and I think I'm going to water it some more tonight and probably the rest of this week off and on. But it's just so much nicer to be out here when it's not, the sun's not up so high and bearing down so hard. So I'm just gonna be out here for, I don't know, maybe 2 to 3 hours is all I'm going to be out here today or tonight, and just be hoping, for that fall weather. And if we can just make it, sometimes we just have to just make it through those hard times till we get to the time where it's pretty in the garden again, where we can truly enjoy it. Today is August the 19th, and I'm bringing these inside. I usually wait until September, but they're just doing so bad in this over 100-degree temperature. I'm going to clean these up before I take them in and get rid of the old dead leaves, and hopefully they'll, actually this one did better because it was dying in the house. It was nothing left but except for the root part of it, but now it's got some. I'll see what it looks like when I get through taking the ugly parts off of it. There's a lot of them. And I like to keep some small pots around so that when I do take in some of my house plants, I have something to set where they set so the place won't be empty. And this is one of those little pots that I had in the front, and I just brought it right back here. And these are some of the other little pots I have. They're just little zinnias, well, except this one, which was already out here. I just moved it over because that one little plant or little pot that I just showed you wouldn't fit in this little place, so I just moved them around where they would fit, and now it looks good again. We'll see how these little zinnias fare out here. They should do fine because they're getting sun, but they'll also get some shade from the willow tree. So hopefully they will be all right. You never can tell with this really hot temperatures what will happen. But fall will eventually come. So I want my little plants that need to go inside to be inside by that time. And I hope some of these will still look great. Of course, almost all of these are the ones that do need to be inside. So I'll have to trim this beautiful bougainvillea down to bring it inside. But that's okay, because that means we'll have it next summer in the garden. And we're going to have another orange hibiscus bloom if something doesn't happen to make it fall off, or something like a raccoon. They were out here again. I don't see many signs of them over in this little area today, but they had my little bird bath emptied out and everything down along the bottom of it, all topsy-turvy. And this little pot is doing somewhat like I suspected it would, because many things in it just aren't making it. But you can tell some of it has put their root down and perked up, so that's good. This little decor piece is practically a godsend for the garden. When everything else is dying and looking terrible, this one is still shining and giving you some reason to smile. So I have taken these inside and cleaned them up somewhat. I cleaned up some of the old dried leaves that fell off of the weeping willow tree. They were all down in here also. And I'm going to put a few more little rock on this to hold this wand up. It's like hanging over too far, and I think I don't know if that's too far or not. Maybe actually that looks better than it did the other way, but I'm going to put a few more rock underneath this little stem, and hopefully that will help it to stand up, and I hope they'll do well. But I am not good with house plants. My house, they don't really like my house, and this one was, I knew it could have went ahead and died because there was no green on it except a tiny little bit on one of the stem, but it made this much for me in the summer, and that's outside, and that's how they grow better for me. But this season has been so hot on them, and you know, I just keep knowing and thinking that fall is going to come. At some point it will be here, and so it ended up being good to take them in a little earlier, because when you take them all in at once, you don't have time to take as much time as I took on these, trying to make them look a little bit better. So they have a good start. But you know, telling someone that fall is going to come when we're on a roll of 100+ days and even hotter heat indexes, it just, nobody's going to listen any more than they listened to Noah when he said it's going to rain, it's going to come a flood, and it hadn't done that before, so they wasn't sure that he was all there. But you know, that's the way it is when you follow your own heart. If you feel your heart is after God as much as you can figure out what's the right thing to do, and then other people try to tell you how ridiculous that is, and I'm sure it does sound that way to them, but we do have to follow what we feel God wants us to do. So that's where I am in that matter. And I took these inside to clean them off, and of course put all that old dead leaves and dead leaves from the willow tree into the trash, and And as I was cleaning one of these, a moth flew out of it. So right now I'm gonna go ahead and put some insecticide on them, which I usually do before I take them in. I hadn't thought of that, so but I'm gonna spray them and leave them out here a while, let them dry, and then I'm gonna take them in so they don't have to suffer the heat any longer. Today, and it's 5:30 in the afternoon, and look what the temperature is. What is that? 104 looks like. On this terrible, miserable, hot afternoon, look what I found. You know, on a day when this is what you find in August, everything dying. And I found this lovely little double hibiscus bloom. Isn't that just gorgeous? And so unexpected. And I'm keeping an eye on these little coleus blooms too, because I'm hoping that I get myself around and get these in so I can save these for seed for next year. And yes, I have tried to save some of these for blooms, for seeds, so we can see these blooms in the garden again, and hopefully I'll see this whole little plant. Oh look, I'm going to have another one right here, but this is the plant that the hibiscus blooms are on, and hopefully I'll get to see it again, but I'm never sure when I take my hibiscus in. Sometimes I bring them out, and sometimes I bring out a little dead stick. So that's why I'm trying to save a few things from seed in the garden. And this lovely little hibiscus still has not put on a bloom or even a bud for a bloom, but I hope it still will before the season's over. I've already told you, but I've totally forgotten which one this was, and also I brought in several, and this is the only one that, well, this one and the one I just showed you, that came out alive for this season. And this lovely little coleus, I've been showing it to you all through the season too, and it's remained a little beauty the whole time. And I'm proud of my little profusion zinnias. I haven't had a whole lot this year, but the ones that are here are just a little joy. And these beautiful blacky sweet potato vines, I saved a little piece of one of these in the window, and this is from it. It just kept going and going, and that's the way I like them to do. But of course, not everything has just been going and going for me this season. It's been a rough August, that's for sure. And we're all praying for rain. Look, we're going to have another little one here. And when I say little, I don't really mean little, because this is a double hibiscus bloom too. This is a new one for the garden this year, and oh, I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring this in and bring it back out where it will bloom again next season. But if I'm not, I have saved some of the seed. I don't think I've ever got one to come back from a seed, but I know my friend Oma has, so I know it's a possibility, and I just want to be able to do that too. And this one, of course, is the bright red one, and I have saved some seed from it too, from some of its pretty bloom. And my verbena has done well this season too. I'm sure it could have done better, but it has done well enough that I'm proud of it. And I think my little hosta that I had in this pot has probably given it up, but I know there's a little tiny bit right there, so it could come out of it and fill right out, but it may not too. I'm hoping it will, of course. And this one also is, I don't know if you can see it back there behind that little angel, but it's all crisped up. But it's still got a good root, and it may come back out next spring. I'm hoping it will do that. It possibly could even look pretty this fall when we get some cooler weather. And I love this color of a coleus, and this one is, I think it's called watermelon. And this one also happens to be the big leaf, or big plant, that's also called Kong, K-O-N-G. And this is the lovely foxtail fern that I love. I'll take it inside, where some of it will promptly dry up and put these tiny little, well, foliage. I'm not sure if you would call it a leaf, but these will all just turn brown. And let's see, you can kind of tell by this one how it's done, and when I go down like this, how they fall off. And that's what they'll do in the house without you touching them. They'll just start falling. So they're kind of a pain to keep in the house, but they're so pretty, and they love being outside. But truly, I, along with everyone else I know, is so anxious for fall to show up. And I mentioned that to my daughter one time on the phone this last week, when I said, I'm so anxious for fall. I keep telling myself that fall will come. And she said, yes, and when it does, it'll last 10 minutes, unless we have a long fall, and then it'll last 20. And I said, I couldn't have said it better myself, because that's the way it seems to go. We want that fall weather so badly, and then when it gets here, sometimes it swiftly turns to winter. My friend Oma gave me this little Jacob's ladder plant, and I think I've probably already told you, but I went to see my daughters, and it's in her house. This one loves being outside. It has grown and grown and grown. See how tall it's grown? Right down here all the way up, and it does look glorious, but you should see hers. It hasn't grown up tall, and she hasn't had it nearly as long, but the leaves on it look like silk. They are so green, and they are so much bigger than mine, and they look so good. They look so happy. Mine, I think it looks a little bit proud since it stands up so tall. And I'm just noticing how tall these have gotten just recently. The bloom has really gotten bigger and just looking great, and it won't be long before it starts putting on its actual flower. Right now it's just little buds all over, but it will get a flower, and you will know it, because not only because of the color, but excuse me, but also because the butterflies will come. The butterflies and the bees and all the pollinators will be over here after this. And this lovely little white chocolate snake root plant. Right now it's not in bloom. I think it has been in bloom, and then it's just crisped up. that's so sad, because when it does a pretty bloom, it's just a light little fluffy white bloom, so pretty. And I did try to start some more of this spring, but it just didn't take. I don't remember, it was probably the heat then, but for whatever reason it did not go. So I'm going to try that again next spring and hopefully get some of this started in other places besides just here, because it's a very pretty plant. And the little diamond frost euphorbia is doing what it usually does, which is just really filling out and shining. And I know even its little bloom is getting a bit dried up, but not totally. There's still enough of a bloom there. You can see how pretty it could be. The bigger and bushier it is, and the more it trails out and over, is the more beautiful it is. This little caladium has looked bright and beautiful for me this season too. And I came out here to water, but I'm going to go ahead and go in the back and see if there's anything there that I would like to show you too. And I think I've told you that this little part of my, I call this my seed box, because this is where I start my seed. It gives me a place where I can keep an eye on them better. And it gives them a good start. I can put some soil in this where it's a little bit lighter, not compacted in the ground like most of my soil is. So it gives me a chance to have something pretty in there. But you can tell, I don't know if you can tell or not really, but it's just leaned over and then broken off on the other side. And so I'm going to need to replace part of this. I don't know, I'm going to have to move around so you can see that there is another part here on this end of it too. So this is that terrible ugly part that's fallen over. I know I need to get rid of that, but one thing, before I try taking any of this down, I'm going to wait till fall weather comes where it's cooler. I'm not even considering to take this job on in the heat. But this is the other side of it. Now I'm still not far enough away for you to see. So here, I'll try this angle, and right here is the middle of it, and this side has to go. It's just too dilapidated and it's over for its time is over. This little piece I can still use, I'm pretty sure, hopefully, and hopefully for a long time still. This is where I put my volunteer petunias. They just come back from seed, and there's usually always plenty of the bells of Ireland in there too. I usually let them go. They do go ahead and be spent a lot sooner than the petunias are, so I have like 2 showings, but it's always good to hurry up and get those bells of Ireland out, because by the time they're big and pretty and start to turn brown, they are keeping the sun away from the petunias, and they need that sunlight. So I usually pull those up, but there's usually still seed from them that comes up in the spring. So I would like to just keep this in bells of Ireland and petunias, but I think I want to change out what I put in, whichever, if I'm able to get another one for this area. And actually I think I would like to put one in the back to hold dahlias, because I love the large dinner plate dahlias, but I didn't even have any come up this year, and I think I only had 4 or 5 that I planted, and they didn't even grow up through that hard ground because we just did not get enough rain, and I need to amend the soil, but I don't know when, if ever, I'll get that done, but I'm trying. There's so much to do in a garden. You just don't understand until you start doing one. But if you're watching this, you probably have a good idea. You've probably done plenty of that garden work yourself, or are thinking about doing it. And this lovely little sweet potato vine, pretty green, yellow green one is really doing well too, even in this terrible heat. There are several things that still look good in the garden, but sometimes it's hard to realize there's even beauty in there when you're just so hot and the weather itself is miserable. But when it gets nice again, if there is anything left in the garden to be pretty, it's just like such a pleasure to finally get to that point where you can enjoy the garden again. I've also noticed that my beautiful little Greggy purple salvia is looking so pitiful. I always blame it on going through that winter and they're not able to come back usually, but this one did. But it's looking so pathetic now that if something good doesn't happen for it, like some good rain and cooler weather, even if that would save it now, but I hope it will. I'm seeing a redbird, but every time I get close to getting it in the camera lens, I'm losing it. I think they just happen to know that they're bright and beautiful, and they know they must stay hidden as best they can. Or maybe they're just camera shy. Bougainvillea is still in beautiful bloom, and it will probably be in beautiful bloom when I take it in next month. And I will hate to cut this pretty bloom off, but I will do it because I need to take it inside so I can bring it back out next spring and we can hopefully enjoy it again. Although, it's terrible this part of the season. There's just no getting around it. It's hard and it's hot. Sometimes it's miserable. And this is where I had some pretty yellow marigolds, and they just did terrible as far as, they did pretty while they could, but they did like these right here. They crisped up and they're ready to be pulled up, and hopefully I will find something else to put in this little pot when fall comes. And I did go ahead and trim off. This is the first time I've trimmed it. I may have trimmed it a little earlier in the spring, but this is the first big trim I've given this. If you remember, it was just full of pretty bright yellow petunias, and there was actually still some on it when I trimmed it, but I thought maybe if I trim it now, it'll get another fresh flush of bloom for fall. Won't that be great if it does? I know it may not make it at all. I may have to be finding something else to go in this little pot too. We'll see how it goes. This is my beautiful pink Weigela bush. In the springtime it is beautiful, but right now in this heat it looks so terrible. But do remember, a lot of the things that look terrible now will come back from the root in the spring and be beautiful again. And if we're lucky, some things like this little castor bean may just take off and take a leap upward and just stop wilting and start looking fresh and beautiful when the fall weather gets here. Now, I don't know if there's any hope for these little zinnias. I have saved some seed. I will save a few more of these seed, because if they could have been fresh, if they could have made it through the heat of August or heat of summer. Sometimes it comes early. One time we had a beautiful August, something about the El Nino that was putting flooding in some areas, just gave us a nice, cooler and wetter August, and it was pretty nice. But even then I learned that then we can be faced with not the hot heat dry, but with just the opposite, with the wet that causes fungus to get on our plants, and that wasn't good for them either. I actually lost some plants that year because they just got that fungus and they just kind of wilted and went away and gave it up. This is my pear tree. It doesn't look great, but it looks tall. It's taking some growth spurts. Do you ever have someone in your life that you talk to and they just lift your spirits and you just be doing so much better? Well, I had a rough weekend and I talked to my friend Susie, and I just calmed down inside and felt a little bit of my own worth, just a little, and it was great. And actually I was so dreading coming out here, even just to water in this heat, and I talked to my daughter first, and it happened again. She just made me feel so good. Thank God for the people in our life that lift our spirits and make us feel like we have some kind of value to somebody. They kind of feel to our spirit like a fresh, cool breeze on a hot summer's day. And this little plant is alternanthera. And by the time it gets a good full growth on it in late summer and early fall, it's a very pretty little plant. And sometimes it has a lot more red in it. Sometimes it's more red than it is green. But either way, it's very pretty. And this is more of the alternanthera plant in the front yard, the front garden. I also showed you that I took some out of this little pot and put in this little pot, and it was doing good, but summer's extreme heat has destroyed it. Even this one doesn't look very good, except here on the ends. I don't know if it'll come out of that and flourish again or not. Right now it looks like or not. But you have to hold on, because sometimes miraculous looking things do happen in the garden. You'll say, how did that come out of it? But also sometimes you'll just have to go ahead and agree that it just didn't make it this season. So we'll see. So for right now, I'm going to try like 3 little sprigs of this purple heart and see how it will fare for the rest of the season. Please be sure to like and to subscribe to the channel.